Endokianta and Nekasukomanam Ninda Sahayatina Nane Zai Si Yang Pu Tang Kwa Ni Hao Ma Wo Hon Hao Sheshe Ni De Bong Chu De Nuevo El Español ¿Cómo estás? Estoy bien. Gracias por tu ayuda. And for those that don't speak Malayalam, Mandarin, or Spanish, how are you? I'm good. Thanks for your help. This is going to be a very broad language discussion about linguistic functioning in the world as I understand it. I need it to be understood that I am trying to help us preserve mother tongues as we continue to develop the English language as a world understanding. They're all just languages to me, and it's not a competition. Thank you for learning and respecting the English language. I love you all, and even if English is your mother tongue, it's important that you have learned it as well. In developing a world understanding, we almost know it, so thank you all for your time and effort in absorbing and developing the English language. Language learning is very individual, and I have some stories I would like to share before the end of this video. But first, you have a responsibility to your own mother tongue. And if you are going to live in a new land, well, obviously, you are likely going to need two languages. But the good news is a majority of the planet is bilingual, and it is very achievable to be bilingual as a human being. What makes a language difficult to learn? It goes back to your mother tongue and how different the new language is from your original language understanding that is your mother tongue. If a language is drastically different in its qualities, it will likely be difficult for that individual to learn. The fewer differences between language qualities would indicate that those languages should be able to cross more comfortably. Briefly, Hindi to Punjabi is similar to Spanish to Filipino, or even Spanish to English. They're not the same, but they're very similar in characteristic. So those speakers generally cross languages very comfortably. I strongly encourage you to read to your children in your mother tongue throughout their developing years, and use your mother tongue in your home. Even be comfortable to use it a little bit in public, but we do understand that we learn the language in the new land regardless of what the new land or the new language is, out of respect for the locals. So we do generally still want to use the language of the locals, but you can still be comfortable to use your language a little bit, especially if you're just speaking to another authentic speaker about something that doesn't matter if anybody really knows in reference to your personal life or what you got going on. It's just a language. But again, we want to respect the locals without losing our mother tongues. Additionally, If you have a new language introduced to your area and you want to connect with those speakers, again, it doesn't really matter what those two languages are. If a new language is introduced to your area and you want to connect with those people, you can learn, hello, how are you? I'm good, thank you, and bye, in whatever language it is you want to respect that speaker. And that really will be all that speaker will need to be respected, especially if they know that their language has been introduced to your area. You would generally feel the same. It's just a respectful gesture. So, just because you live in Canada, does that mean that you need to speak English and French? Not necessarily. In some areas, and we still need our French-speaking community. Personally, I don't have a lot of French speakers in my immediate area. J'ai pratique. I am practicing, and when I have French speakers around, I'm happy to use what I know. But again, French speakers generally understand English, and the languages I do get to use regularly, like Hindi, Malayalam, Mandarin, Filipino, and Spanish, well, those languages are developing for me largely because I'm getting to use them. You can apply the same concept to your own situation, and you need to be practical in your language learning without losing touch of your mother tongue. Just because you live in India, does that mean that you speak Hindi? Not necessarily. I have met a lot of Indian brothers and sisters here in Canada that did not speak Hindi or spoke very limited Hindi. ठीक है, मैं समझ जाता हूँ. It's okay, I understand. It's just a language. And the Hindi language was trying to find a middle ground amongst a lot of languages. And very respectfully to the Hindi language, there are an estimated 650 million Hindi speakers right now. So the Hindi language is very successful as a connecting language. But very respectfully, it was the English language that I'm actually able to use with all the Indian brothers and sisters. And that's not just because we're in Canada. It was the English language that connected the Indian people in India amongst all the languages. And you can see how English and Hindi are very comfortable languages to juggle as two languages, but English influence in Hindi is basically in the translation and the lack of tone markers. Other than that, it still pertains a lot to Indian culture. So not all of the Indian people speak Hindi, and in general, people don't really want to hear languages that they don't understand. And that is absolutely perfectly normal. In amongst the Indian community, some speakers don't know other Indian languages that I may know a bit about, and they don't really want to hear it. And I don't blame them. They don't understand the language. It's not personal. So That is generally the case. However, again, it is very individual, and I have reason to believe that areas that are modernly trilingual, and that does exist, well, those people are likely to be more comfortable with hearing any language due to language maturity, but still could grow very uncomfortable if the new language being spoken to them is very different from what they know. If somebody knew English, Français, et Español, well, Mandarin may still sound a lot different, logistically and practically. But language learning is all very individual. And I would like to give some examples. I met an Indian brother down on the boardwalk. He could understand all the English I spoke to him, but he could not reply in English. But as long as he could keep his replies basic, he could reply in Hindi. Main samajh jata hun, Percy, main सीमित hun, मैं यह कर सकता हूँ. I can do it, and I was able to understand as long as he kept it basic. But that was very individual to him. He had developed that English listening skill without the ability to express himself using the English language. But we were still able to communicate. I met a Telugu speaker. He was at work in a department store. He too told me that he had feelings, but not the English words when I was speaking to him using the Telugu language. He also had a very strong listening ear. Again, I was connecting with some Punjabi speakers and told them that I found my listening skill was the slowest developing skill, and they told me they found the complete opposite, that they could develop listening skill easier. It is very individual. I do have a unique situation where I developed them myself, but openly, I do find the Indian community generally comfortable to hear whatever language I use, and theoretically, I feel like that goes back to the fact that a lot of the Indian community is modernly trilingual. The same can be said about the Filipino speakers, as well as the Mandarin speakers. So I believe that theoretically and practically makes sense. And I met a Filipino family that lived in an area of New Brunswick that were fluent in French, fluent in Filipino, Tagalog, and fluent in English. I could speak better Filipino with them than I could French. But when I did not understand their French speaking, well, we were able to connect with the English language. Kaya din hanggang konong practice. I need to practice. So it is very individual. And with different versions of English, you don't know why they're saying it like that, but you can figure out what they mean. Here in Newfoundland, Canada, they're known for having a very unique way of speaking the English language. For example, what are you at? What's the time to? What are you doing? What time is it? You can figure it out. It's just a very different way to speak it. But since it's English, it's okay. It's flexible in that way. It helps it be a world understanding. And it's also my understanding from speaking to people from out of this country the Canadians generally speak English very quickly. It does make a difference to an individual's listening skill because slow talking is important when developing a language, and I have known quite a few of the students working in, say, coffee shops with special lingo and locals that speak very fast, compounding that with continuing to develop the English language. It was very stressful for them. I had a really great Mandarin friend that worked in a coffee shop, so sometimes I would just send them random orders that they would hear at their work just to get them used to hearing it and then type out what it was in English. And they said they found that was very useful in growing more comfortable at their workplace. These are all factors. So, with that said, I am going to get going for now. Thank you all for your time and your energy to absorb these messages. I love you all. Eat good, remain optimistic, be thankful for your life, and create a great day for yourself tomorrow. I love you all. Good night.